Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Uncensored CMO. In this episode, we're talking strategy with one of the smartest brains in the world of strategy, Jo Arden, who is Chief Strategy Officer at Ogilvy UK. We caught up to find out what is the role of strategy in the creative process. Do we need to put the fun back into advertising? And what does she think of purpose? And have we taken purpose too far? This is a brilliant episode. We cover a lot. I know you're going to enjoy this. This is my conversation with Jo Arden. Jo Arden, welcome, Jo.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you on here. So let's talk all things strategy.
Let's do that.
How does someone get into this world of strategy and advertising? How did you get into this?
Well, this is quite a soapbox moment for me, because I think that at the moment it's quite difficult, and I think it has been overly difficult for too long. So I'm just going to talk about my winding path into strategy in the hope that people will listen to it and go, okay, it doesn't need to be difficult. So very potted history. Did a women's studies degree, amazing. Did a marketing master's, worked in recruitment, learnt lots of valuable lessons from that. Then worked in business development for advertising agencies. Then went into Iris, which is an agency, as you know, and then made my way into a strategy role within Iris, and then moved, and sort of since then I've followed a more traditional strategy path. But I don't think I had a strategy job title until I was in my 30s, probably. And I just think we need to be a bit more open-minded, that you don't need to start when you leave uni and get into it. So quite a winding path, really. And
for those people listening, what does a Chief Strategy Officer do? Like, what's your kind of role in the organisation?
I'm going to completely whip people's assumptions away about about some of the things that you don't do anymore. 100% you are still writing pitch decks and working on client business and all the stuff that you do when you're a strategist. It's a broader role, right? So it's about agency leadership as much as it is about the client work. I sort of divide it up roughly into three bits. So one is about business strategy for the agency itself. One is about client strategy for the clients we work with. And then the other bit is about developing the strategic skill sets of the team that work for you. And each week can bring a different blend and intensity of any of those things.
So what makes a really, really good Chief Strategy Officer?
I'm going to ask you this in a second, but I think I have been thinking about it. And first up, I'm just going to say that I think I'm a pretty good Chief Strategy Officer, and I've got lots of peers that I think are amazing. I guess the thing that I admire in them, that I think makes them good, is generosity. And I mean that in generosity of giving your time to things. So the people piece is really important. Generosity of thinking about clients' problems and about how our industry evolves. And also generosity of credit. And the CSOs that I think maybe, and there's fewer of them now, that I don't like, are those that think that they are the people that are doing everything, making the work, doing all the important stuff. We are in a team sport. Yeah. So I would say generosity. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah,
it'd be interesting to know.
Yeah. Well, I've never worked in an agency, but certainly from a client perspective, that probably the best times I've worked with CSOs have been really when I've got them involved in a really knotty business problem right early, because it's often, from a client point of view, you often sort of do your brand planning on your own. You get your budget signed off, and then eventually you kind of brief the agency on a very specific, here's my communication brief. But the best times actually have been when I'm really in the shit. Like I'm really facing a proper challenge. I remember, without going into the muck and bullets of it, I work on a rather well-known brand, and it was really in the shit. And I got the Chief Strategy Officer from Grey, Lillian, who's absolutely amazing, Carolyn, who was the ECD, I think Gavin, who is kind of head of my PR team. And we basically kind of said, right, every single week we're going to have this, we call it mission control, so like a war room. And as Gavin came up with the idea, he said, let's treat this like an election, right? This is the day in which we have to convince the public that the brand is back, right? We painted it on the wall. In fact, we did have a room which we had all the kind of post-it notes on and stuff like that. And we just met every week. And what was lovely about it is, everyone had a say, and we were united by the business problem, not necessarily the comms brief or the creative challenge. It was the business problem. And Lillian, who was smartest cookie I've ever met. I mean, she's just razor sharp. She brought so much clarity because I guess for her, she was outside the company, I had the perspective of the whole industry and what's going on. I was obviously up to my eyeballs in the internal issues, and she just brought beautiful clarity to it and go, really precision about what are we trying to do, what's the problem, how could we solve it, and helping us to think through. And that clarity really made a difference. Then Carolyn, then came up with the idea, and the idea was really a positioning for the entire brand that the entire company then got behind and really created a whole movement really that was so much bigger than if we'd waited until we just go, okay, we want to make an ad and
do something with it.
Yeah,
and
be
make
taxed, exactly.
Exactly.
So, I think my top advice to any clients listening is bring your strategy team from your agency into the tough conversations, even with the board, the really knotty briefs for the business and involve them in that stage.
I think that's amazing to hear that. And I hope that clients can find the time to be able to do that, because, it's obviously the best way. And I think it sounds like you got loads of value out of that. And I know for sure that the strategists will have got loads of value out of it, because they want to expand what they think about and to be embedded in the business challenge. I worry that clients are stretched so far, and we'll talk a bit in a second about how strategists are stretched, but making that time to do that, I think, is probably really valuable. Some of the projects that I've been on that I've loved most are when we've had a similar thing. Lots of the government work I've done has been cross-agency teams, and the strategists have all got together in a room, not really thinking about the challenge that is immediately at hand, but just the broader challenge, the societal thing that we're trying to shift. And I just think loads of value happens in the margins of those conversations, doesn't it?
It's much more exciting. I mean, one tip I often give people in business development, actually, and it sounds stupidly simple, but few people do this, is go to your customer and just ask them, what's the biggest single business problem you have today? And the reason I say that is if you can help answer the thing that's keeping them awake at night, they're going to love you forever. I mean, but agencies often, I think, stay in their lane and they're sort of thinking, well, we're here for comms, or we're here for PR, or we're here for activation. And just asking some of the basic business questions means that suddenly the answer you come up with and present is going to be way more relevant if you've been involved in the difficult problem.
100%. And if you do that and the client says, actually, I'd rather you stay in your lane.
Yeah.
And you can get back in it.
There you go. Exactly. And you carry on as you are. Yeah,
Exactly.
So what I thought would be fun, actually, is given that you work for Ogilvy, I was amusing myself the other day on some famous David Ogilvy quotes. So I thought I'd use this as a rough, kind of guide for our conversation. The first thought I'd put to you was, I love this quote, make your thinking as funny as possible. Now, my colleague Orlando has got this chart, almost like the death of humour in advertising, the last 15 years.
I'm very
seems to have gone down.
Chart, yes.
Must have appeared in a presentation or two. And it reminded me of some fun we had last year on the System 1 database, where I was looking at different categories. And these are all kind of grown-up, serious categories, like, mobile phones and technology. And I noticed something really funny, that actually, in all the categories, the winning ad often was quite non-serious, right? So, I mean, I think the best phone ad had a dancing pony in it. The best kind of technical ad had I think it was a flying ostrich, and the best insurance ad's got a talking dog, and the best car ad, in fact, had a cake in it. Is there something we're missing, do you think, about the role of fun, entertainment, humour? And maybe we need to take ourselves a bit less seriously now.
I mean, it's so strange, isn't it? Given that if you think about the world of dating, the thing that people most want from a prospective partner is good sense of humour. And then in advertising or communications, we kind of forget about that and start, either being overly informative or just taking ourselves very sincerely. There's a research agency, one of your competitors, called the Nursery, who did a brilliant thing. You'll probably be familiar with this. I know Orlando is, which was looking at the sense of humour across the UK. And they did this great thing where they came into agencies and you all did a test and they determined which sense of humour you had. And the point of it was to tell us that actually the UK is united by our love of very juvenile slapstick humour. And we find it funny. It's like, if you think about all the classic TV comedies, like Only Fools and Horses and the bar scene and the chandelier and all of that stuff, we find things funny. And I think it's one of the great things about the UK, that we are united by a sense of levity. So, I think we do take ourselves too seriously. And what I love about the examples that you've given is that they immediately make you smile. And I know what brand you're talking about. So back to the business case, if we're here to try and build salience and make people remember the brands that we're advertising, humour is a really great way to do that.
That's so true. If I said to you, name me a mobile phone that has 16 megapixel camera, you're going to be like, well, all of them? Name me a phone with a dancing pony, and you go, I know which one it is.
Exactly, yeah.
Makes sense.
And it's really important. And I just think there is, why would you not want to entertain at the same time? And I know that it's not relevant for all topics, and, some of them you do need to, and I've done quite a bit of charity stuff over the years, and you need to allow yourself room to be serious Not all the time, actually, with charity, but I just think the vast majority of the time, why would you not think about something which is fun? Working in an agency, you can tell when there's a script on the table in a creative review and, somebody reads it, one of the creatives reads it, and it's got that real glint in the eye that immediately people are much more excited about it. So,
I think there's another Ogilvy quote along the lines of, if we're not having fun, we're not making great work, which I thought, I want to go and work for that guy. That sounds like a good...
Somebody internally emailed me that literally 2 days ago, and I think it is a good reminder that we're in such a privileged position. Our industry is fun, it delivers business value, we work largely with nice people. I can count on one hand the people that I've met who aren't in our industry. And the sort of alchemy of that all coming together is why we have got, why we deliver what we do.
You're vice chairman, by the way, alchemy.
Yes, exactly. You're welcome, Rory.
Yes, exactly. Checks in the post. Well, talking of the graph, okay, so the graph has got humour going down and purpose going up. It's almost like, literally crossing over. What's your point of view on purpose in advertising?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I mean, first of all, the word just means nothing now. And I think that's that we need to tackle that, because people just throw around the word purpose with absolutely no shared understanding of what that means. And if one of the jobs of a strategist is to bring clarity, I feel like my gift to the world might be to get rid of that word and to replace it with something else. Now, I think the way in which we're probably talking about it here is pro-social purpose. So something which brings an added benefit to society, or has a point of view on the world, or maybe has a bit of an activist agenda. And I think that there are some examples and some campaigns and some brands where that is super relevant, and they do a brilliant job of maybe changing people's hearts and minds. At Ogilvy, we've got a very long running relationship with Dove, as everybody knows. And I think the work they do on purpose is incredible. And I thought that before I joined. I'm not involved with it, but I think it is incredible. That said, I think there's lots of other brands who take sort of short-term points of view, jump on a bandwagon, do things which are very surface level, don't have any integrity. The purpose isn't hardwired into their core business practice. And I think some of those campaigns are some of the worst work I've ever seen. And it actively makes me furious when they get awarded, because I just think, if they have no integrity, why are we applauding them? I also don't think that purpose and humour need to be mutually exclusive. And I love to see work which brings those two things together. And I actually think there's a bit of a gap there. If you think about the conversations we have, the difficult one-on-one conversations we have throughout life, they're often made better by a bit of levity and a bit of humour. So why would we not translate that into...
As Yolanda's got a phrase, I think he's quoting somebody else that says, what's too serious to be said can be sung. And that's quite clever, actually, because it in a way, it'd be a bit like with humour, isn't it? What's too difficult to be said can be joked, which feels a bit awkward, doesn't it? But actually, I think there's some truth in it. You can tackle some pretty chunky things.
You can, if it's done with respect and it's not making light of very serious things, but treating it with lightness. Those are two quite different things, I think. Now,
you mentioned awards. Another David Ogilvy quote, probably my favourite, which given being a former CMO here, if it doesn't sell, it wasn't creative. Which the longer version of that was, when I write an ad, I don't want you to tell me if you find it creative. I want you to find it so interesting you go out and buy the product. Do you think in our focus on purpose, have we lost the sell?
So I think probably the obsession with purpose is over-inflated because it makes a nice headline. People in our industry absolutely love a crisis narrative, which I find quite funny about us. We're so dramatic about everything. So I think there is less purpose work if you brought together all of the communications that were put out into the world by all of the people we represent, the brands we represent. I think purpose makes up a way smaller percentage than people believe it does. Yeah. The counterpoint to that is that, no, I don't think we've lost the sell, because we are, without question, selling lots of stuff. And, that may be a problem in some ways. But most of the work that we do is designed to move product off shelf, to get people to click buy, to get people to do things and take action. And I believe that it does do that. It shows up less often in the creative awards, and it shows up less often, I guess, in the headlines, because it's just there doing the hard-working job of bringing commercial value. So I don't think purpose has got in the way of the sell. I can understand why people get their knickers in a twist about it. And that's a very, very valid point of view. And I think it's quite healthy for them to bring that debate to the table. But I think it's somewhat of a inflated.
Well, let's try and see if we can get through the weeds on this one, because obviously, I think you talked about crisis.
Yeah.
Peter Field's famous crisis in creativity.
Yeah.
I know at System 1, we've been testing Cannes Lion winners for 10 years. And in fact, last year, they actually got to a score that was no better than the average on our database. Orlando's showing we're becoming more left-brained, more sort of activation. We're doing less of the brand building work. It doesn't look good, does it, when you look at the data in that way?
Well, I think the data is part of the problem. So you've mentioned two things there which are actually different, and we don't treat them as such. And in fact, the whole conversation about the crisis in creative effectiveness tends to conflate a few different things. The first thing you mentioned was Cannes Lion being measured in the database and doing no better than work that hasn't been creatively awarded at Cannes. Lots of work that's awarded at Cannes is there for, I would argue, a different reason. And it's to show the boundaries and the experimentation and the strength of our creative muscle within agencies and brands around the world. It is a really good place to showcase the sort of extent of human imagination. And I think it does a really great job of that. So yes, lots of things are really tactical. And I know that every year, everybody, gets really worked up about, well, that didn't really run, or it only had one media placement, or it's cam spam. And, and I can understand that. And as a strategist, I definitely have been on that side of the fence about certain entries. But I think we would be denying ourselves part of the magic of our industry if we said that there's no room for creative exploration. And I think Cannes does that really well. The other part of the equation is that we are unquestionably using more short-term tactics. So driving sales, using media, and therefore the creative content that goes in that media, which is designed to have an immediate response. And that has a very worrying trend when it comes to being measured against long-term effectiveness. But they're two different things.
You're absolutely right. In fact, you're spot on. The data exactly says that. So we've been measuring STAR, which is the long-term brand with potential. That's been going down. Spike last year was at highest ever, which is our short-term activation. Yeah. What was really interesting is, what we noticed is that the intensity of emotion created by advertising at Cannes is very, very high. But what's typical is it's using negative emotions to make points. So a lot of it's quite activist, it's quite challenging, a lot of charity ads, a lot of purpose-driven ads. And what they're doing is they're designed to be noticed and designed to be acted on in the short term. And in that sense, they're doing very well. So I think what it is, to try and sort of solve it, maybe if there was a solve, was maybe it's a crisis in creatively awarded campaigns in terms of long-term brand building. But what's happened is the voting agenda or the judging agenda has changed, and it's more looking at impact on society. It's looking at, kind of short-term activation, isn't it? Rather than what might traditionally have been the brand building kind of campaigns. Yeah,
it's looking at both those things. It's looking at impact on society, and it's also looking at short-term spike. And I don't think it's a crisis. I think it's a trend.
Yeah.
And
it's one half of the chart, isn't it? And the other half of the chart's doing that.
It is. And I think that there is there's a particular trend, and goodness knows how long it'll go on for. Maybe it'll be another 10 years or so, about the type of work that gets creatively awarded. I think it's really great that Cannes are also now doing a creative effectiveness and a creative strategy category. And I think being able to look at stuff that's been awarded in a creative line space and see whether you can also make a case for its effectiveness is going to be quite an interesting test for strategists, but also test for data.
I think it's a genius move by Walk. I have to say, I credit to them, because I've won 2 Cannes in my career.
Ooh.
Right? But just putting that out there, by the way, listeners, but was never invited.
What?
I know, it's outrageous, isn't it?
How come?
I know. Well, I literally was like, why is my agency not returning my calls? And then literally about a week later, oh, John, where were you? And I'm like, I didn't get invited. I know, it's outrageous.
That's terrible, unless it was us. It wasn't us, was it?
No, it wasn't. No, it's fine. It's fine, actually. But, and of course, they're very unhappy with you lot. Anyway, but the point was, it'd be very hard for me as a client to justify a week going to kind of creative awards and, a week drinking rosé on the Croisette, right? However, if you've got an effectiveness track that is sharing all the best practice and so on, that sounds more like an educational trip. So I think it's quite clever. I think it could help kind of bring clients along. At the end of the day, clients are paying for the work, aren't they? And they want the work to be celebrated and they want the work to work. So I think it's a neat trick. If you can bring the both together and have one rub off from the other, I think that's quite cool.
You think it's moved out of the travel and expenses budget pot into
the training, which is much
pot.
bigger, much bigger. Yes, exactly.
I would love to explore that with Rob and find out.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
It is interesting, and it's. I just think we've got some great effectiveness awards competitions. IPA, obviously, gold standard, amazing. We've got FEs, obviously.
You're a judge on that, aren't you?
Yeah, so I'm convening this next year's, it's every 2 years. So we'll kick that off at the end of the year at F-Works, and it's important, and actually important for people to sort of prove the effectiveness of their work. Also important to build the database, because obviously lots of the stuff we're talking about is based on the IPA data bank, and having that, despite all of my reservations about sometimes how that data gets manipulated, but there's no doubt that having that data is a really good thing, and what a legacy to build as well. I mean, I think that's one of the many things I love about our industry, is that we're thinking about what the people who come after us will be able to draw on, and that's a really great thing to have.
Now, there is one award that most people don't want to win, right? Which, now, I know you're a campaign columnist, aren't you?
Yes.
Turkey of the Week, and it's coming back. What's your views on that?
I'm not into it. I'm not, and I think Rick Brim wrote in Campaign the reasons why I'm not into it. I mean, I guess to summarise, there's so much goes into making an ad, and Turkey of the Week is always pretty much ads, TV ads generally. There's so much that goes into that, so many things that can go wrong, so many missteps, but also the people at Campaign they're not reading the brief. They don't know what the intent was. They don't know what happened along the process. I think we forget sometimes that people who work in agencies work really hard. Within the context of being in a job which is nice. They work really hard, long hours, way more, I think, than some people realise. Blood, sweat and tears. It's a confidence game. We are all dependent on having the confidence to put an opinion across, to have the imagination, to put creativity down on paper. And I just think it's a bit snarky. I'm like, oh, Turkey of the Week, thanks. Thanks for those 3 weeks where I didn't go home and, I was on a shoot where it was absolutely knackered the whole time. I just don't know. I just don't think we've got the right to do that.
I attempted to turn it into an accolade. So I got a call. I think it was Matt Bamford Bowles at the Elephant Room. Is that? I think that's where he works. Anyway, and I got this message from him, and he was livid, absolutely livid. And I said, dude, what's happened, right? He goes, I cannot believe Aldi, Kevin the Carrot, has just been named Turkey of the Week, right? And he said, can you tell me how it scored on System 1? And this is about 3 or 4 years ago, just as they were kind of rising to prominence. And at the time, it was a 4-star. It was in the top 3 or 4% on our database, like pretty damn good. Anyway, it got him going. See this big post. It was like a campaign to try and kind of stop turkeys kind of thing. And it got some momentum. And I said, Matt, I'll go one better. You send me a list of every turkey and I will test every turkey for a year on our database, right? It turns out the average turkey was 3 stars. No. It was better than the last 10 years of Cannes at long-term brand building. No. So I wrote this article for Marketing Week when turkeys eat lions for breakfast kind of thing.
Oh, I read it, yes.
Oh, did you read it? Yeah. But ironic that the ads that were derided actually turned out to be winners in the end. So, so anyone out there that's won a turkey, maybe wasn't so bad after.
Well done.
Well done.
I mean, also, but it does beg the question, because you're, and I'm a big fan of the System 1 research methodology, but that's about real people, isn't it?
It is, yeah. So it's 150 people. Yeah. How do you feel about this ad? Yeah. And does it make you happy? So we've managed to correlate the response to that survey to basically market share gains over the following year. So it's like the, if you think about, your share of voice, your media spend, coupled with your creative effectiveness are the 2 things that help to, predict. Yeah. And we've shown that the creative quality, unsurprisingly, everybody, the creative quality matters as much as the media buy. Breaking news.
Thank goodness.
I know, but everyone spends all the money on the media, don't they? And optimizing that and clicks and reach and so on. You need to spend as much of the time making sure the creative works as well. Yeah,
which hopefully we'll continue to bang that drum and land it. Because I do worry sometimes about that ratio wildly changing. But with the Turkey of the Week, I mean, I think maybe they need to just caveat it and say, in our opinion, it's Turkey of the Week. Maybe they do actually. I don't know. Maybe that is in the text.
Yeah, we can subvert it and go, turkeys statistically are more likely to, go on to long-term success.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's good. I like it that you're giving the agencies the ammunition to
yes, indeed.
Go to their clients with that.
Well, it sort of brings me on to another David Ogilvy quote, which is, the consumer's not a moron, she's your wife. Which I thought was brilliant. And the longer form of it, which I always get this wrong because you have to kind of pay attention, is people don't think what they feel, they don't say what they think, and they don't do what they say, which is sort of why I work at System 1, really, which is because it all boils down to, do you like it or not? Because you sit in focus groups and they'll tell you anything that you want them to say. Are we, as an industry, getting better? Okay, let me ask you the question. How do we bring the audience into the creative process and make sure that we make work that effectively does what it needs to, which is win over the customer?
Yeah, and I think it's got to get back to speaking to customers, hasn't it, and understanding them. One of the things that I sort of bemoan a little bit for strategists now starting out is that they're so required to be able to assimilate such huge swathes of data. You could get as much data as you want about an audience, their digital signals online, their buying behavior, their footfall in various stores, where they live, their demographics, their opinions, all sorts of data. And it's a lot for people to be able to bring together. And I think that there is still no replacement for actually speaking to people, speaking to real people, being in the supermarket, going shopping, doing research. It doesn't need to be really expensive and structured. I think just being part of the world and the people that you're trying to appeal to is really important. And I think because of the pressure to be able to understand big data sets and the time that requires, I worry that we limit our strategists and our creative people's ability to get out and just be a normal person, because that is the best way to find out. That's not to say that some of the the bigger data sets aren't handy, but they lack the viscerality, I think, of understanding people. Our job is to bring the consumer into the room. And I think one of the bits that I like about the quote, I mean, I don't like the word moron, I've got to be honest, and also the assumption that she's your wife. Yeah. But anyway, of the time, I think it is really important that you have that memory about it's somebody that I should like. And there's been various great articles over the years. Andy Nairn did a really nice one for Campaign. It probably was about 15 years ago when we both worked on smoking cessation together. And it was about referring to our audience as, I think it was probably C2DE hardened smokers. And it's like, wow, what a negative way to talk about the audience, that you're trying to get to behave in a certain way. I mean, I always think that you do your best work when you kind of fall in love with the audience you're talking to. And why not? They're people. It's like the general public are fascinating. One of the things we talked about this before, weren't we? But one of the things that I think is very useful for a strategist is to just consume like normal culture, like, to read magazines, to watch maths.
Yeah.
Exactly. To just like do normal stuff. I think it can be, and historically has been, perceived as quite a highbrow pursuit being in strategy. And I kind of hate that. We've got some super intelligent people, and that is right, they should be. I don't think you need to be a, proverbial rocket scientist to do the job. I think sometimes it helps if you're not, if you've worked in a sales job or, you're just a bit more tuned into what people are thinking and feeling. But yeah, like fall in love with the consumer. I mean, we're asking them to buy our products or to, be some way persuaded by our message. If you hold them at arm's length or treat them with derision or try and wrap them up in language which is unfavourable, I think you're going to fail.
Definitely. For everyone listening and watching, by the way, Maths is Married at First Sight Australia. Quick plug for that.
But if you know, you know.
Well, exactly, yeah. Good point. I have to say, in my career, I'd say that the most success I've had is when I've spent the least amount of time in the office, in internal meetings, the most amount of time out with my customer. And you almost don't need to do the research if you know your customer, right? Decisions become so much easier if you go, well, I know what they think, I know what they do, I know why they buy. It just makes everything much easier. Talking about culture, another quote here as well. When people aren't having fun, they seldom do good work. I love that. I kind of read that and go, I want to work there, right? So, Ogilvy now, see you're there. Is it fun? Like, what do you guys do to kind of, make the work enjoyable?
Yeah, I mean, it's the most fun. It's a brilliant culture. It's actually, it's actually a unique culture in that way. You know, a very, very people-focused organisation. I think that people enjoy each other's company, seem to anyway. We're ambitious to do great work, and I think you can see that in our results, you know, and especially in our creative awards over the past year or so, you can see we've got some real creative momentum, but that has not been to the detriment of people's lives. And I think we've got a really good balance, actually, of people being in the office, you know, putting a shift in, of course, because that's what everyone does, but also having a really good balance. It feels like a fun place to work. We've got rabbits in the office today. I don't, it is Easter, by the way. I don't know when this is going out. That's not just a regular Thursday. But we've got a lot of focus on training and development, on people's mental health. We've got really good networks of support for people representing different groups. I think that one of the things about advertising is that it should be fun. I just don't think you can do it if you're like riddled with anxiety about the work that you're making. There should be a sense of, I guess, like restless ambition about it. And I think people should strive to do better. But I don't believe in packaging that up in fear. And I think that the advertising industry sort of played on that historically. And I hope we've all realised that was kind of weird. And that's not how it feels now.
It does feel like we have to fight harder for this, though, doesn't it? Because, you know, we've got like remote working, so we're not together. We've got more systems than we ever had before. Everything is processed down and broken down into constituent parts. Deadlines seem to get shorter and shorter and shorter. And then from a advertising perspective, we've got so many channels that we need to go out on and manage, and different social platforms and different media formats, and everything's broken down into small parts, isn't it? And the complexity, you know, and systems involved in that are just multiplying. So it feels like that becomes ever so much harder than it used to be.
Yeah, I think that's right. And it would be very easy to be overwhelmed by that, because, you know, there are a lot of things that you could do. And if you decided to embrace every trend, every process, every way of doing everything, every new source of data, you would never make anything good. So I think you have to just strip the excess from your mind and focus on the thing that's in front of you and that you need to do well. We're a big agency, and we talk about borderless creativity, which is brilliant. And, you know, in the sort of the shorthand version of that means that we create ideas which don't get limited by, you know, channel that they show up in or space that they are in culture. And we've got 5 different businesses, and we all work together, and it's brilliant. And, you know, the best stuff we do is, yes, it's a PR thing, but it also might be informed by behavioural science. That can sound like a lot to people. And what I really encourage people to do is to not be overwhelmed, but just to think through, what do I need for this particular task? What will make this task better? And to repel the input overload that you can have. Because people aren't made to be able to hold all those things in their minds at the same time. And also just to have fun with it. One of my friend's daughters was doing her GCSEs recently. Gave her some unwarranted advice. She'd not asked for it, but I just popped it out there anyway when we're on a Zoom call. And I just said, put some pressure on the task, not on yourself. And I think that's what we've got to learn to do. Like, yeah, we are required to be responsible with budgets and produce great work, which delivers impact. But that's a pressure on the task. That pressure doesn't need to be held in ourselves. You know, we can still allow ourselves a bit of levity and a bit of human connection along the way.
I love that. And I mean, I really believe passionately creativity can change the world. Creativity can change our businesses, you know, in dramatic ways. And if we don't create the space for it, we'll just be a slave to the deadline and a slave to the process, won't we? And how, in your experience, how do you create an environment around you that fosters great creative work?
So I think strategists are required to be the optimists, and I think that it generally attracts quite optimistic people. Or even if they're not optimistic, they can dig that out from somewhere. Because I think we have to be the people who will see the solutions and see the opportunity. You know, we digest the challenge and then we regurgitate that back out as something which leads to a really interesting solution. And our role is to kind of move between the client and the account team and the creatives, and I think just keep everybody feeling like the things are possible. So I think being an optimist helps with that. In my role as an agency leader, I think you've got to be the cheerleader, you know, and I think you've always got to remind yourself that even if your day is not the best in the world and there's a lot of pressure, everybody else doesn't need to see that. You know, they need to know that they're in a I think the phrase is psychologically secure space. And I think that's right. So hopefully that's what I do. I mean, I don't know. You might get people coming back to go.
Survey out to the Ogilvy team right now on a scale of 1 to 10.
But I think that's the right thing to do. And then there's lots of soft things that sit around the outside of that. But I think they're less important. Obviously it's great that we have fun things in the office, but I think it's more about how we interact with each other and give each other respect. And again, that generosity and, recognising work and recognising effort has got to be part of that, because we all make a big contribution and we couldn't do it. That's one of the great things about all the jobs in advertising, is that you can't kind of do it on your own. So you're reliant on somebody else and your relationship and the chemistry between you to make it good, which is a nice thing.
You mentioned a previous thing about, I think you said unwarranted advice there, didn't you? Before, let's pretend it's warranted advice. So what advice would you give, let's say, your 21-year-old self who's starting out, wants to be doing a job like you're doing now? What advice would you give to yourself?
It definitely is about the imposter syndrome. So when I first encountered people in advertising generally, but in strategy specifically, a lot of them were Oxbridge educated, came from, lots of them were private school educated actually. And I'm from a very normal town in the northwest called Ashton-under-Lyne, which nobody's ever heard of. It sits in Lancashire. I had a fantastic time at school. I went to a comp. It was brilliant. I loved it. I thought it was the best place on earth. I didn't know when I came to London that there was such a thing as a good university. I thought it was like, well, you went to university and that in itself was good. And then I got to London and it's like, oh, that's not the case. And there was all these things I didn't understand, and, lots of rules about how you interact with people and about behaviour. And it's very difficult. And we make our industry perversely complicated for people to navigate. And so feeling like you never quite fit in, or you're a bit of an imposter, or you're not doing quite a good enough job is I think common to all of us. I think it gets presented as being a gender specific problem. I don't really buy that. I think it's everybody. So my piece of advice, this is going to sound really neggy, which is slightly off brand, but is that as much as I think it's great to identify your heroes and aspire to be them, Kate Waters, you know who you are.
Kate, love Kate.
I know.
Oh, big fan.
And she probably is the person who I first sort of saw as a strategist and was like, wow, if I could be her one day. And she's a really good friend of mine, and that's a great pleasure in my life that we're pals. So I've identified my heroes, and there's lots of them, Josh Bullmore, Michael Lee, Andy Nairn, there's some amazing people, media side, Rachel Peace. However, I think it's also good to look around you and go, I don't think that person's that great. Because actually you will find, I think, during your career that seniority, being in the career for a long time, earning lots of money, all of those markers of success, sometimes don't necessarily mean that you're that great or that you put that much effort in. And I just think when you're having a bad day and you're like, I don't know if I'm good enough for this, looking around you and going, you're not that good either. At somebody
my version
is quite good.
my version of that is they're making it up as well.
Yeah, which
so many people are.
Yeah,
and a lot of people feel like they have to be the expert. They have to have all their preparation done, and then you go, they don't actually know what they're talking about either.
No.
My funniest imposter story, actually, which is almost unbelievable, but I promise you this actually happened, was when I did a finance degree and then decided I wanted to go into marketing, and it's like, during my degree, we all had to go and do like a 6-month placement at a proper job to get experience, you see, and I'd run out of time. I hadn't found a job, and then basically I saw this advert, and it was basically interview guinea pigs wanted, £25, right? And I thought, well, look, I haven't got a job. It's the summer. I've just finished my degree. I might as well kind of go and do it. And it was between my 3rd and 4th years. That's right. Anyway, so I went, and it was this very grown up place. It was called Kleinwort Benson. It was like in Fenchurch Street, like proper investment bank, really like, thick carpets, glass building, oak walled, rooms, all this, very serious. Anyway, so I went in, I dressed in my suit, all the kind of thing, and because it was a guinea pig interview, I thought, well, I've got to make something up. So I kind of invented this slightly backstory about a business I ran and how successful I was. Anyway, so imagine me in the interview. I'm clearly making this thing up, right? So Anyway, so we had this interview and I'm super overconfident. And at the end of it, and she says, "Oh, that was a great interview. Thank you very much." Gave me my £25 check. And I thought, brilliant. So didn't think anything of it. I got a phone call. "Hi, it's Kleinwort Benson here. Would you come back to do another interview?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'd love to earn 25 quid. I'll be there, right?" So you can see where this is going, can't you?
I can.
So I go back in. I think it's the same thing. So I go back in thinking, oh, well, here we go again. This time they've brought the boss in, right? So this really important guy walks in, pinstripe suit, what it's like in the city 25 years ago, Anyway, so I just egg it even more. I just I'm even more chill going, well, I'm getting paid for this. This is brilliant. Anyway, at the end of it, by the way, this shows you how old I am. Average salaries at the time were like 12.5 grand for graduates. So this is back in the sort of mid-90s, whatever. Anyway, so at the end of the interview, they go, "So, how much do you want?" And I'm thinking, hey,
25
we're
quid.
playing, right? So I go, 25 grand, right? Which was double the graduate entry salary at the time, right? So I just said, I'm worth 25 grand. I wouldn't accept anything less. I think this is role play, right? Anyway, and then they go, "When can you start?" And I'm going, "Well, obviously next week, right?" And then they say, "Okay, well, we'll send you the offer." And I'm thinking, at this point, I suddenly go, "Oh shit, I've actually done a job interview." And then I'm going, "What even is the job?" I'm thinking, but I can't confess because I might have just have got a job. My very first job was that. 25 grand, Kleinwort Benson as a trading analyst on the trading floor. But the reason I come back to imposter syndrome was this. I got found out 6 months later because I then obviously had to submit my degree in this. So I went to Brunel University in West London. So I, like you, I didn't do the research on the posh red brick, establishment universities. I didn't do that, right? So I just went, being a sado, I went, which university has the best employment statistics? And
I think that's good, yeah.
I was being, Captain Sensible. Turns out it's Brunel University in West London. The reason being they sent everyone on these kind of, get yourself a placement job and learn how it all works. And the head of HR, 6 months into my job, came up to me and said, "Can I just check something with you?" I said, "Yeah, where'd you go to university?" And I said, "Brunel." She goes, "I thought so." And I was like, "Oh, what? What have I done?" She goes, "We don't hire from Brunel." She said, "We only hire from 4 universities, and that's not one of them. So how did you get the job?" I was like, okay, so it doesn't matter that I've done a great job for 6 months and I got hired in an interview. And I thought, wow.
That's
and then
dark.
when I found out about it, it was really weird actually, because I then found out about the recruitment policy and how it actually works, despite my blag. But it turns out that it was just because they get so many applications, they can choose to pick whoever they want. And so they were just so inundated, they just go, well, let's just draw the line at those 4 universities and we just limit it like that.
Oh, God.
And that's how it works.
They get so many applications that they've chosen to not use any imagination at all.
So in a way, by that point, I decided it wasn't for me. I wanted to go into marketing at this point. So, and I'd earned loads more money than I ever thought possible, sort of thing. And I ended up working for Britvic for £12,500 a year. Had a great time. Took me about 5 years to get back to my salary.
Scramble back up the ladder.
Yeah, exactly.
I love that it was 6 months till you got found out though.
Yeah, I survived 6 months. So there you go. Ladies and gentlemen, it is possible to cheat the system.
I'm not sure. Is that the lesson we wanted to leave people with?
I'm not sure. We want to open the industry up to more people, don't we? So
That's true.
So they don't have to do what I did.
I think the lesson is if you are open-minded and bring people in from diverse backgrounds, turns out they do a great job.
Damn it! I should have said that, shouldn't I? Damn. Well done, Jo. Thank you for that. There's also a bit of serendipity as well. I think something else I've learned is you sometimes just have to put yourself out there, and good stuff happens when you do. So just going along to the guinea pig interview, and I know I can't promise that'll happen to you. Obviously, it's very unlikely, but just meeting people and so on. I mean, you must have found in your career that actually your network, you talked about a few people, is incredibly important.
Yeah, it's so important, and I really make an effort to try and do the same for other people who are trying to come into the industry. So, which is very time consuming, but I will try and meet pretty much anybody. I'm going to regret putting this on a podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it here first.
But I do, even if it's just like for a quick chat, and often we don't have a suitable role, but I think just having a quick chat with somebody, or getting one of my team to have a conversation with people, I think just being like open and genuine and enthusiastic and hardworking, but and finding the opportunities is useful. But I have benefited massively from some wonderful bosses and wonderful people in my career, and I'm so grateful to them for at some points taking quite a big risk. Like when I took my job at Lowe, so Jane Asher, who runs 23 Red, who I don't know if you've met her, which is brilliant. Again, total hero. She really gave me my first sort of proper serious strategy job, and I'll be forever grateful for that. And I loved working with her. I mean, God, just such a role model. But then I went from there, which was a sort of fairly small agency at the time, maybe 35, 40 people, to Lowe, which was MullenLowe, which was way bigger. And I'm really grateful it was Dale Gall, who was the chief exec there, and then Tommy Knox. And just called him Tommy Knox, that's so rude, Tom Knox. And I'm really grateful to those guys for, giving me a chance and seeing that I could do the job. And hopefully I proved them right. I think I did. And then I've got the brilliant Fiona Gordon at my current place. So I think that's what I mean about our industry is full of amazing people who can see the potential in each other. And I think that's to be celebrated. But I also really believe in kind of, recognising that and mentioning them. The opportunity.
Well, good mentions. I love how you said my first serious strategy job. Maybe if we follow David Ogilvy's advice, we'll make it a fun strategy job instead.
Yes, true that. I mean, it was a lot of fun at 23 Red, but it felt like it was, I guess because we did a lot of government work, and it was the first time I was leading a team, so I was head of strategy at that agency, and I was like, okay, this is my job now. I think it felt like that was the moment where I was like, right, I am a strategist, and this is my job, and I'm going to do really, really well at it. I want to be brilliant at it. Brilliant. And that's always an ongoing journey, isn't it?
It is brilliant. Well, I think that's the perfect place to end because, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to get into strategy, follow Jo's advice, and the stars will be in your sights.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thank you so much. That's wonderful to have you. Thank you, Jo.
Thanks for having me. It's been
My
so
pleasure.
fun. Thanks, John.
Hope you enjoyed the episode. I certainly did. It was great fun talking to Jo and catching up on all things to do with the industry. If you enjoyed that and you want to subscribe, please do wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. You can find me wherever you are at Uncensored CMO over on Twitter, YouTube, and I'm on LinkedIn at John Evans. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.